We are here to talk about things that we wish we knew as an incoming intern to the dietetic internship. My name is Karenna MS. I'm a career changer. I used to be a software consultant for about 6 years. I recently graduated from the Jefferson University MSRDN program. Your experience might be different, but I went through some major life changes during the program. I became pregnant towards the beginning of the program and then went through it, having a full pregnancy, giving birth, and having the first 8 months of parenting my first child. I'll turn it over to Emma.
My name is Emma Conrad. I'm originally from Indiana. I received my bachelor's in kinesiology. I was also a student athlete. After I graduated, I moved to Philadelphia to receive my master's and my internship hours to then sit for my exam. Domenica, over to you.
Hi guys, my name is Domenica. I did my nutrition undergrad at Penn State University and I went for my master's as well.
We're going to kind of talk about our experience within our future education model program. But I think one of the parts to me that was most beneficial for my learning and for my future growth was it was classroom learning combined with the internship learning. So we would go to class around 2 days a week, and then we would have our internship hours 3 days a week.
Being able to talk with our MNT professors or any of our clinical subject professors that we were working with at the time to ask them about the discrepancies that we saw between what was happening in the clinical practice and what we were learning about in the classroom. It was really nice to have a once a week class to actually bring up all of those questions.
The internship combined with classes, like you were getting feedback throughout the cohort because we were a really small group. Overall, you're able to speak with your preceptors that you're really close with and still be really close with your cohort, which was really important for me.
Now let's imagine you're getting ready for your first day of internship. What do you do to actually prepare for your first day of your internship? Send an email to your preceptor or preceptors 2 weeks before the first day of your internship. You want this to be a professional email, of course. We would always include in that email is a short introduction of yourself. Immediately express your gratitude and excitement to work with them. Ask about some of the logistics that you're going to want to know to make your first day go smoothly, such as parking, building access, or if you're going to need a badge or an ID, when they would like you to arrive on your first day and who to contact and how. Some more broad questions: what do they see your daily work schedule being? It can be also helpful to ask about lunch options. Do they have a little kitchenette or a place where you could store and eat a packed lunch? Ask if there's anything specific they would like you to do to prep for the internship. And then finally, what to bring.
It makes it 100% more approachable as an internship altogether to have a little bit of background knowledge before you're going in. But that initial email is your initial build of that relationship, right? And it's all about who you know in this field. And the field of dietetics is pretty small still. And so understanding that that initial email is just the first time you're going to talk to someone, the first time they're going to see your name pop up on that screen. And this person is really essentially teaching you their own job while at their own job. And so having that respect, having that understanding and appreciativeness of what your preceptor is doing for you, I think can go a super long way.
And especially because this is the first day of everything, it's really common to be extremely nervous. And that's exactly how I was. But in the back of your mind, you have to remember like, this is your first clean slate of every single internship that you're going to be, whether you're changing sites and you're meeting new people. You'll see once you kind of start gaining that kind of confidence with different sites and your classmates, it'll kind of bounce off each other and you'll be able to like forget about that shy little person. You'll become this outgoing, really incredible RDN one day.
To go off of what Domenica said about feeling shy and coming out of your shell, know that you're going to mess up at some point, and that's okay. The thing that was really nerve-wracking for me was in having my first interview with patients in the hospital. I had a lot of angst about these patients. They're going to think that I'm a fraud. They're going to see right through me the first time I walk into their room. But now, having experienced it, my advice would definitely be do not waste time shying away from opportunities that you will benefit from, such as getting your first experience in actually interacting with a patient. Now, on a slightly different note, just something more logistical about that first day and another opportunity to take things head on and start building towards immediate growth. is learning the electronic health record. It can be called the EHR. The basic process of seeing a patient is going to be, you're going to come in the morning, screen the whole hospital to figure out which patients do you have to see. And then you're going to research each individual patient by looking through their medical record. And then you're going to interview the patient based on what you found out about them and what you need to talk to them about. And then after your visit, you need to document a note documenting what you talked about with them, what you provided, what your nutrition assessment is, and what your recommendations are. Aside from, my clinical practice, I have to learn how to use this software, where to click to find the right information. My recommendation is just to, I think it's helpful to come into your first day knowing that might be what you're spending a lot of time on your first day. Come in with a notepad or some way of taking notes on how the system works.
The master's degree being a relatively new expectation of a dietitian, as in 2024, we had to have our master's degree in order to sit for our exam. I think a lot of people wonder what the difference is between a master's and a bachelor's degree, right? And so I think one of the best ways I could frame the difference is your bachelor's degree teaches you how to think, lays that foundation, and then your master's degree and the internship in our case really teach you how to act, teach you the experience, teach you how to be in that every single day life of a dietitian. And I think your example solidified it perfectly, Karenna, in the way that you have to know all the ins and outs of the day-to-day job before we can even start to apply that clinical knowledge.
I agree, Emma. I think that's a great way of explaining it. As far as the internship goes, and especially if you are in a future education model program, you may find yourself with a very heavy workload. You may be wondering right now going into the internship, how am I going to make it through? You may be in a situation where you have to work a full workday at your internship in a professional setting. And then in addition to that, you have to be doing academic work. You might have side projects you have to do, working with clients. I did find to be quite heavy in the second half. As we got towards the end of our internships and the end of the program, we were starting to have projects that were very applicable to the real world. And I realized these projects can actually go on my resume, and I really want to do a good job of them. In my case, balancing the schoolwork and the internship ended up looking a little different after I had my baby. Something that I hadn't foreseen is that I wasn't really able to control my schedule. I had to adapt to the schedule of my infant. So it turned out that, I was able to be away from home during normal business hours for my internship. But then as soon as I got home in the evening, my infant needed me to be with him. Okay, I'm not going to be able to get anything done between, from 6 p.m. onwards in the evening. So had to adapt my schedule so that I was waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. to get that schoolwork done before going to my internship in the morning.
Completely agree. The schedule and how you manage your schedule are crucial to how you're going to do within the program, or whether it's accelerated or going from all school to all internship. But how you manage your time and how you manage, like how you were managing your infant, is how someone's managing their self-care. Like it all sort of trickles down to balancing a master's degree all at once. But back to the projects, especially for me, because the projects were always sort of always there, even in undergrad into the master's. My struggle piece, I did not like the projects as much as I thought I was going to, especially with presentations. Although I had them in undergrad, they were really, really different within our program, especially. We were doing them constantly because our cohort was roughly around like 20 people. So even though we got to know each other extremely well, that stage fright still was hitting every single time I got up to the podium, got up in front of a preceptor. It was always there, even though I knew the material to practice it in front of people. It's just that sort of stage fright. The practice does make perfect, and I saw myself kind of growing within each presentation. And the benefit of just putting yourself out there is that feedback that you're going to get. And that's where you get to like apply yourself even better than the last time you did, or you just gain from a new experience, which is really important within the real world before you get to the real world, so to speak.
Domenica, I think you make a great point. The experiences that may make us uncomfortable have the opportunity, and often are the experiences that really push us to be the best we can be. And I do think that having that in the back of my mind before huge projects and huge presentations would have been helpful to know that I'm going to come out stronger and more experienced on the other side of this. And I think you and I, throughout our program together, had this conversation many times. And can you kind of go into some of those conversations that we had and the lessons that you learned?
Yeah, Emma, totally. So like one of the biggest things moving into like our internship and how we got along was definitely how we built our relationships within our program and with our preceptors. That was like the biggest influence in my whole career because of dietetics being so small. That's kind of how I was able to get a job really quickly. It's really hard as a kind of a baby dietitian. You want to really begin with those main connections because they're kind of passing the torch over to us. The more niche you kind of want to get, the more stronger your connections you really want to build on. And building on those connections, especially within your internship, you really want to become a sponge to everything. Writing down everything is really important. Asking for resources, staying later, even though it might not be what you want to do. You might want to get that sleep that you've been lacking, but it'll pay off in the long end.
It's very important to seek out the knowledge that we don't have and specifically target where can we grow and what do we need to learn in order to get to where we want to be. Not to be shy about having our preceptors realize that we don't know everything or having them see our weaknesses and then showing them that we can learn. The ability to learn on the job and the ability to apply feedback. Specifically regarding feedback, do not take it personally. It might be about you, but it is not a comment on your value as a person. It is an opportunity for you to now show your preceptor, number one, how graciously you can accept that feedback. And number two, that you can apply their feedback and learn, change, and adapt on the job. Something else that really is helpful, keep a journal of what you're learning each week. You want to note down for your future self what you did or learned that week, what went well, and what challenges came up and how you dealt with them, or how you plan to deal with them in the coming weeks.
The journaling, I think in our program we had like our journal clubs, and that was our like weekly refresher of all our different rotations, especially because we were kind of flip-flopping from different sites constantly. So it became like one complete blur by the time it was graduation. And it was a good refresher to see like the work I completed, like, and just, yeah, having those things that like document things that you did, things that you especially learned and accomplished just within your internship, what you did for the patient, how you handled a certain situation just in your internship and how you would handle it within the actual workplace is what they'll be looking forward
I
to.
think when I was applying for my current job and interviewing, even though I had been a student there for so long, it was still something that I went back and leaned on because one, when you're in the moment of an interview, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I even going to say? And two, your whole internship, so much is packed into all of those experiences. Just having one liners or just snippets of memories can help you bridge the gap from internship to interview to job. And I think even further than that, using that entire internship process as your job interview, right? Every single day you're showing up, every single day you're performing for your preceptor, and every moment is a opportunity to show your preceptor the type of person you are and the way that you can be resilient and the way that you can problem solve throughout your entire journey as a dietitian. Going into the internship with the notion that I'm making connections that are going to last me a lifetime. And I'm making connections every day that either one, they could be hiring me or they could know the person that's hiring me. And I don't think it should be scary, right? This is the opportunity that you get to show your passion. And people don't forget passion. If you are talking to someone in the way that you light up, the way that you listen, the way that you are intentional, they're going to remember you and they're going to remember your character for forever, right? And I think one of the best pieces for a hiring manager to even know about you is they were such a good listener and they cared so much about their job. One of the best ways to show your passion is, like Karenna said earlier, take notes, listen intently, show that you care. You're never going to love every single thing about nutrition, right? And that's just an expectation that we all need to understand. However, that doesn't mean you can't show up and care about what your preceptor is teaching you, or even get one sliver of information that can propel you in a different sector of nutrition. If I can gather little snippets of each person and each relationship that I built, I can take that into being the dietitian that I want to be one day.
I agree. People totally remember when you are there, you're intentional, and you're actually excited to be there. Not everyone comes into the internship knowing exactly what their one true passion is. Part of the internship process can be finding your passion. You might think that you know exactly what you want to do coming into your internship. You might know, I want to go clinical, I want to work in a hospital. Or you might be more like me, where you want to work in a hospital, but you also think that food service could be interesting. You also think that research could be interesting. A lot of dietitians change directions throughout their careers. So just because you pick one direction at first doesn't mean you're going to stick with that your entire career. It's good to allow space for elective rotation choices or for additional opportunities that might come up or projects within one of your rotations that could allow you to expand yourself in a direction that you hadn't previously considered.
I think exactly to your point of going out of your way to look for other projects or the elective rotations. Those are all ways of showing our gratitude, right? For someone who is passionate about their job but willing to teach us. And I think something else that's important to know of the entire experience is show appreciation. After you've finished your time with your preceptor or in the middle or any of that, write them a note, write them a thank you, show your appreciation. These people took time out of their own jobs, to teach you as a student and propel you for your future. And then you never know, it could create a lifelong connection that you have for forever.
Rather than thinking of it as networking, I like to think of it as keeping up genuine professional relationships with the people that you encounter throughout your career. It actually is a two-way street. Even though you might be a student right now, within a year or two, you're going to become an RD, and now you're going to be part of your preceptor's professional network, and you may actually be able to help them one day. Another thing that you may not realize about networking is that you can also network with your classmates. How valuable it can be to keep in contact with your classmates as you go through your internships and sort of collaborate and support each other throughout the process. Not only is that support really helpful in the moment, but if you stay in contact with your classmates, they can also be resources for you in the future.
Yeah, Karenna, I completely agree. It's getting to know our class, just how they are as humans was really important, just with like their social life, what they were doing, because although I lived in Philly all my life, like a lot of people didn't, like coming into Philadelphia, which was really cool because although I lived here, I still did not know half the stuff that they were doing on the weekends. Balancing that part of the aspect of your internship is also really important just for your own like mental health, for your own sanity, even because the workload is going to get intense. And I'll be the first one to say like prioritize that mental health because that's going to be the one thing that pushes you to get to the finish line all the way. It's also important to like remember while you're trying to push yourself, taking that time that you need, taking that refresh, doing whatever you need to do. Just like keep in the back of the mind of like how excited your past self would have been seeing how you are currently doing today. And that kind of got me through towards the end because it gets really overwhelming. So just like giving yourself those refreshers with your mental health, everything really all works out in the end.
Knowing your why can be a really good sort of rock. I think that for me in the internship, again, with struggling to learn how to be a parent and manage an infant who was dictating my schedule, you really knowing the why of why I'm doing this and where I want to be going was very helpful. I did learn a few things or come to realize a few things about time management that helped me get on a little bit better. I have a type A tendency to overthink, spend too much time on projects, and have an expectation of myself to put in 100% effort on everything. And I quickly realized in the program and with my life that this was not going to be possible. How to deal with this for anyone out there who is like me and feels like a perfectionist tendency. Prioritize your projects and assign your level of effort according to what's most important. Go through your workload and decide what are the things that you do want to put 100% effort on and what things can you get away with just doing an 80% effort. But you want to be intentional about it because you want to make sure that the things that are projects that are feeding your passion or projects that are going to be an important part of your resume or parts that are graded very heavily, it's worth it to take that little bit of extra time to choose which ones you're going to really go 100% on.
I think you make great points. I think you had such an individual experience with the program of all of the challenges that came from being where you were. Can you just kind of talk about a little bit more about maybe things that you wish you would have known before? Or
there were a lot of things that I learned through being a new mother, while going through the internship that I think could have been really helpful to know going in. I wish I had felt more comfortable staying in constant communication with faculty and preceptors about my needs. Most dietitians are very supportive of parenting and having a work-life balance, and they may have even been there before. So don't be afraid to try to get ahead on the planning and communicate heavily about your needs as a parent and to ask for the accommodations that you need. I do specifically recommend when you send your intro email to your preceptor, include your inquiry about if you're breastfeeding, how are you going to access their lactation facilities? What facilities do they have? What equipment is available? And state like how many, your specific needs if you are pumping, like, I need X minutes of break every X hours. I would have definitely benefited from learning where the lactation facilities were and visiting them and sort of thinking through more concretely what my pumping plan was going to be, both on campus and on the internship rotation site. For one, planning ahead with the program for scheduling issues. Sleep schedules often are erratic, or maybe they don't sleep at night while you're planning your internships. Request that your program put you at a rotation site that's going to allow you to either have, if possible, some schedule flexibility, but if not, just, it's perfectly reasonable to request that you be assigned to a site where you are able to work standard working hours. And finally, something that I did not foresee having an issue with was staying hydrated when pregnant. With how busy the schedule was on the floor, I did have one day where I forgot to drink water and I ended up suddenly feeling like I was about to faint on the floor. It was a little bit awkward, but they totally understood. And so again, I would say just remember that you're going to need a lot of extra hydration when pregnant. Just know that you'll be surprised how supportive registered dietitians are about pregnancy, lactation, and parenting. And one thing that was nice was that experiencing how supportive my preceptors were about it really gave me a renewed faith in the profession as a whole and made me realize that I'm really headed into the right group of professionals.
That's a perfect note to end on. This process is doable. You got this. Best of luck. And just know that you can have so much support in so many different ways. See you in the next one.